Is Deborah Duff here?
Can my daughter go with Angel because there's something in my...
Sure, come on.
Just need to be inside the group.
Sure. Okay, well, that's that now. And they will be followed next by Dwayne Lambert, Diana Martinez, Susan Millum, and Charles Orter. Let's start out with the Cooks. Are y'all related, or you just have...
I have 2 out of 8 of my children.
Ooh! You go.
Thank you.
Go ahead. And you're Angel?
Yes.
Go ahead.
My name is Angel Cook, and today I stand before you not as a victim, but a survivor of Child Protective Services. In 2010, I had my first experience with the Texas Department of Protective Services when a family member dropped off her son, who was a victim of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse at the age of 2. I contacted CPS after discovering complete handprints, cuts, scars, burns, and bruises that covered his entire body, and later found out at the hospital he was left with a lifelong STD. CPS issued me a safety plan to keep his bio mom away and simply abandoned him in my care. They offered no advice, no funding, no health insurance, nothing. My adopted son was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, reactive attachment disorder, and a mood disorder, as well as anal warts. I was left to help him through his daily nightmares, his shaking when men entered the room, and his many outbursts of anger. I adopted my son, but sadly on March 22, 2013, my son passed away due to the abuse he endured. When ambulances came, they called CPS due to the scarring that was on his body from previous abuse. I told the workers of his prior history, but they removed my 7 children anyway. All because my social worker refused to take the time to look up his prior case in their care. Not once did she say, "I'm sorry for your loss." Instead, she repeatedly told me I killed my baby boy. During the police investigation, my worker hid my son's CPS records, my son's HIV status from detectives. She lied under oath and stated I had no family to take my children, although I have 9 brothers and sisters and extended family members. My kids were placed in separate foster homes in a different county, and I was only given 48 hours total with them during the 377 days they were gone. I exhausted my life savings, and thankfully, I proved my innocence and my kids were returned. But today, I regretfully report to you that 3 out of 7 of my children who never faced 1 ounce of abuse in my care are now sexual assault victims. I can't begin to tell you the heartache of being accused of killing your son, having your 7 kids removed, and learning your kids endured months of sexual assault, all because the social worker failed to do her job and lied at all costs. Today, sadly, my son's abuse in foster care goes uninvestigated. It's time to put justice back into Child Protective Services and get them focused on finding and saving truly abused children. It's time we remove them from the profitable business of tearing loving, non-offending families apart, and it's time to hold the department accountable, the children in their care, the same way the department holds us parents and families accountable during their investigations of abuse and neglect. It's time to hold workers accountable for not following state policies and procedures. According to Angel Eyes Over Texas, in the handbook for reunification services are supposed to be done in parallel to CVS, but sadly in our case, we had 1 social worker doing both jobs. It's time for Texas to join all the other states in reinstating of parental rights, and it's time to form a different outlet for children who are placed in foster homes to be able to freely speak and report their views in state's care. It's time that we listen to the people who matter the most, our children. Thank you.
Well, I will tell you how sorry we are for your loss. And there is a man sitting over there that I want you to talk to before you leave this Capitol building, and his name is Judge Stisha, and he is going to listen to further detail about what you experienced.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And what's your name?
Brian.
Brian, would you like to tell us something? Okay, go ahead. Brian who?
Brian Cook.
Okay, somebody's recording that, so now we know who you are. Go ahead.
My name is Brian Cook. I'm 11 years old. On March 22nd, 2013, my life was forever changed when a Texas social worker picked me up from my school in front of all my friends and told me I'll never see my parents again. I was taken to her office, where she began to tell me I had to say certain things when she turned the cape on in order for me to turn to my parents. Although I'm a child, my parents taught me no matter what the situation may be, you should always tell the truth. My social worker got really angry with me and told me if I didn't say what she wanted to say, I would never see my family again. So after I refused, my social worker told me my family did not love me, they no longer wanted me. So I was going to a foster home and I would never return. I was scared and confused. I was raised in a loving home with parents who have always taken great care of me and all my brothers and sisters. And not one time in my 11 years has either of them ever hit or yelled at me. They have never done drugs or drank alcohol before. My parents have always helped me with schoolwork and helped me life serving God. I begged the social workers to please let me go home. I repeatedly told her she was lying about my parents, but she refused to listen. She told me it didn't matter what I had to say as I'm only a child. I was quickly placed in a foster home away from 4 of my brothers and sisters. I had to go days without seeing or talking to my parents. I was placed with complete strangers and not allowed to see any of my family members or friends, and was removed from the only school or church I ever knew. I was placed in a foster home that had a total of 14 kids living there. We were given rules and orders. We can't tell people or anything that happens in the foster home. We were forced to sign a form promising not to tell. We were given rooms that had alarms placed on the doors that would go off if we left our rooms. My little brother, who is 7, was forced to pee his pants every night. In May 2013, a child started sexually touching my brother in his private parts, and I quickly told the foster parents and reported to my social worker, but they told me it was okay and not to worry about it. In June, the same boy started sexually abusing me. I told again, and nobody listened. Today, I thank God for answering my prayer. The truth came out. My parents never laid one hand on any of my 7 siblings. I was returned home after 377 days, but I was an entire year with my parents and was not allowed 42 hours with them. I missed birthdays, holidays, and the entire summer, all because a social worker was allowed to lie under oath. I may be only a child, but I know right from wrong. And I know no matter what, you should always tell the truth. But my question is, what makes it right for a social worker to be able to lie? What makes it right for a social worker to overlook my sexual abuse and not report it so I can be safe? Today I stand before you. 11-year-old boy is another victim of a system that is broken. A system that overlooks abuse and sets care and fails to protect children. I was removed from a safe and loving home to return a victim. Today I stand before you, a victim that was sexually violated more than 50 times in foster care. Only because the social workers be able to hide, tell me it was okay. It's not a big deal, and that it's not abuse. How would you feel if I was your child?
Brian, your time's up, but we've got your testimony. I want to thank you, first of all, for coming to talk to us. I mean, it's our job to listen to you and hear what you're saying and do our best to fix what you're telling us was broken, and we are most grateful. And the lesson that you were taught about telling the truth is real important. Ultimately, it will pay off, and I am so sorry that you went through what you went through. But thank you.
Thank you.
Justin?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, my name is Justin Cook, and I'm 13 years old. I spent the first 12 years of my life free from abuse and neglect, and then I can honestly say I have everything I could ever want, including my 7 brothers and sisters, my friends, my school, sports, and most importantly, my parents and God. On March 22nd of 2013, my life changed instantly when a Texas social worker entered my home and removed me, my brothers and sisters from the only people who have ever cared for and loved us. And instead of placing me and my siblings with family members, my social worker lied in court and told the judge we had no family to take us. I was instantly placed in a behaviorist foster home, separated from all brothers and sisters, even though I had never had any issues with my behavior and have always maintained great grades and good conduct. I am not here today seeking help in my case, as my parents fought hard and proved their innocence. But today I do stand before you not as a member, but as a child who is a victim of a failed system. A system that was built to protect children from abuse and neglect, and whose goal is to seek the best interests of a child. Today I stand before you as a victim of repeated sexual and physical abuse and state care, and a victim of Texas social workers who repeatedly lied and refused to help protect me after my many outcries of help. And I also stand before you as a today as a victim of an agency who is hiding my abuse to protect the numbers they are required to report of children who are hurt and abused in their custody. I am a 13-year-old child who was left in foster home where I was held down, beaten, and sexually assaulted on a day-to-day basis. While all my foster parents, my social worker, and my CASA record did nothing to protect me for 271 days. I was repeatedly beaten, yelled at, called names, sexually touched, exposed to drugs and alcohol for the first time in my life, and repeatedly threatened. I can't begin to tell you how it feels to be ripped from a home where I spent 12 years of never being hit or yelled at, and placed into a foster home with strangers where I was scared and alone, where I felt unloved and unwanted and allowed to be hurt, and where my many outcries for help, my social worker went overlooked and uninvestigated. It's a pain and a fear too that no child should ever feel, and is not in the best interest of any child. Today, my abuse still goes unreported. My foster parents continue to be foster parents, and my abuser walks free. No one has been held accountable, but I thank God every day that my parents fought for the truth, fought for justice, fought for me, and I was returned back to them. My goal today, as I stand before you, is not for myself, but for all children in state care. No amount of therapy can erase my physical and sexual abuse that I faced, and I can never get back the year I lost in my loving family. But I pray today that somehow, some way, my abuse while in state care can prevent any other child from being hurt, neglected, abused, and let down by an agency that has the power to destroy innocent families. I pray that the system finds a way to hold each Texas social worker accountable for their lies, their failure to stop or report abuse in state care. I pray that the rules are changed to allow children who are removed from their parents to be able to go to their families, members who know and truly love them, instead of going to foster homes with complete strangers who allow abuse to occur.
Madam Chair.
Hang on just a minute. Senator Birdwell was first, and then I'll recognize you. Senator Birdwell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions, and I'm not sure that who can answer all of them, but I'll start with this, though, with Mrs. Cook first. I want to make sure I understood what you've laid out. You have some children of your own, and then some that were placed in your care as a foster parent through Child Protective Services.
No, incorrect. I'm a mother of 6 children, and a family member dropped off 2 abused kids that she was hiding from CPS.
Okay. In receiving those 2 children, when the one that passed away, you were then accused of the abuser rather than your family member that had dropped them off.
Yes.
Therefore, by that accusation, you lost all 7 of your children in that interim.
Yes.
You have since received those children back.
Yes.
You said you had spent your life savings. Can you give me without being too intrusive, can you give me I mean, that can be a profound amount, that could be a small amount, but it'll be very important to you, whatever that dollar value is. But I want to get an idea of what we're talking about.
Through the 377 days, we've spent $126,000 fighting for our children.
Okay. My next questions, Madam Chair, are maybe to the judge, to Judge Specia, maybe to Sunset, might be to Commissioner Janik, but it derives to this. Is there a mechanism within DFPS that allows this sort of charge or accusation against DFPS personnel to be independently reviewed? Is there, call it a hotline, call it an IG, this is the kind of thing that has to get to leadership yesterday? And I don't know if leadership here knows about this, or this is the first you've heard that. But if this is the first you've heard, that tells me there's a bigger problem in your agency than you know of. If you're hearing it, same time we are. Second, similar to what we do with death penalty cases that have been exonerated, the state provides a compensatory financial payment to those that have been exonerated. Is there a similar mechanism for those that have spent this kind of money that then find themselves being exonerated, that the state owes them the compensatory financial recoupment of having proven themselves innocent? Can anybody in here answer that question?
There's not.
Commissioner, do you want to step forward and put the answer on the record? I don't know, or Judge?
Senator Birdwell, there are 2 different avenues for complaints like this. I have an
Judge
internal.
Specia, I'm sorry, would you
Excuse me,
identify
I'm
yourself
sorry.
for the record?
I'm
just
John
so we can
Specia,
know it?
Commissioner of the Department of Family and Protective Services. There are two different mechanisms for complaints of this nature. One, I have an internal affairs organization, a consumer affairs, that is independent of program right below me that can investigate this kind of program. Secondly, on criminal type complaints, we have our Office Inspector General can independently investigate. I am not aware of a compensatory mechanism in this type of case.
Okay. What is the mechanism for a Mrs. Cook to access your internal affairs, or because she's got a due process right, so does your state employee.
Sure, I understand that.
There could be a false accusation being made here. I'm not making a statement here, Mrs. Cook, of saying so.
All she has to do is call my office, and the complaint will be directed to my internal affairs to review and look at. It may have been, I don't know. I need to check on that right now.
And
Okay.
Senator Birdwell, I worry about going in public too deep into
Well,
things. So,
you're
but I would
right,
like
Madam Chair,
for
about
you to get with his
Sure.
office. I mean, if this is all accurate, and I have no reason to believe it's not,
Right.
somebody needs to go to jail.
Right.
What
But
you
it-
talked to us, what you described to us is criminal. And there are
Right.
laws against what you talked to us about.
Right.
But rather than going through all this
Well,
in a
you-
public arena, I would prefer that you contact Judge Specia,
Yeah.
and he'll, I guarantee you'll get a response.
Right.
We follow protocol. We filed complaints actually with his office and got a response, and we were told it was considered horseplay.
Okay, we've got two issues here. One is that if you followed protocol and it wasn't adhered to, we will address that. But we also need to deal with your specific situation, and I promise you he will get with you.
Right.
I'm going to ask him next time I see him.
Actually, my head of my Consumer Affairs Department is here right now, so I will have him meet with her immediately.
There you go.
Thank you.
Madam
He'll
Chair.
meet you out in the hall.
Senator Birdwell?
Well, you're right. There's a level of decorum that I do not wish to go, but structurally, I do think it is imperative that if the state is the reason a person has spent this kind of money defending themselves, to be exonerated. It is just, maybe not, it's not a death penalty case, but it is certainly parallel that the state of Texas owes compensatory damages and reimbursement for this adjudication we have to address that, whether it's as an amendment or something. But that's something that's got to be
It's
addressed.
probably not going to be through the sunset process.
Maybe not, ma'am,
Yeah.
but
No,
this is something that we absolutely have to discuss. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you. Representative Raymond, I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, let me just tell Senator Birdwell, I'll carry your bill on the House side, because it's going to take a bill.
There you
It's
go.
going to take a bill.
You know,
Just a couple-
technically, every time you guys are applauding, I'm supposed to be slamming the
Don't
gavel
clap.
down. So,
Don't
just
clap, but...
no
just-
enthusiasm.
Just two quick questions. One for Justin. Justin, during the, and I could ask both, but I'm going to ask you because you're a little older. During the process, is Judge Specia here? Okay. Do you remember ever having a chance to talk to the judge, a judge that was deciding where you would be and so forth? Did you have a chance to do that?
I don't know his name. It's a foreign judge. Me and my brother Austin went to him.
You were able to tell him what your circumstances were and so forth?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good.
He was allowed to tell him where he wanted to live, but he was ordered that he was not allowed to speak of his sexual abuse in front of a judge.
Okay, so stuff like that is a problem for me. All right, and that's really what I was asking about. Now, Mom, real quick, you said there were two children, including the baby that died,
Yes,
That were-
the mother dropped off a 6-week-old and a 2-year-old.
and did I hear the chair say, I'm sorry, I don't remember you saying it, was this a relative?
It's a student relative of my husband. They lived in Oklahoma, and she was running from CPS in 2 different states.
And were you, and I'm asking because I've dealt with CPS a lot on this, were you aware that you said they were running from CPS?
Yes, when they placed them in my home, I immediately contacted the CPS that she was running from to make sure I was legally okay to keep the kids, and they approved it. But when I asked for any help, they just left them there.
Did you, but when you did that, were you already aware of the abuse? I guess you looked at the baby and saw the marks and so forth.
I was not aware of the abuse, the extent of the abuse. I just knew that she had a CPS case. She just told us it was just for neglect. I didn't find out until I put the child in the bathtub and noticed his body.
But from the beginning, you made CPS aware.
Yes.
That they, all right, then we really do need to look at this because it's just something wrong here. Thank you.
Representative Dutton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to say thanks to these young men for coming here and sharing their story. You know, it takes a lot of courage to do that. And I want to say on behalf of everybody in the state legislature, thank you all for coming here. But I also want to say, this is my 15th session, Madam Chair, and I don't think I've ever heard a worse story of government abuse in my 30 years of being around here. I've never heard of a story so bad, so egregious that it just almost invites a rage in me. I mean, this is government at its worst, and perhaps we can't really fix it for this family, but we ought to be darn sure that we fix it for any other family.
Doesn't happen again.
And so I just want to say thank you all for sharing. But just know that we're going to fix this. We're going to fix it, and it's not going to take another Sunset Commission hearing for us to do it. We're going to start today to get it fixed. And so if you want to check back with us, I guarantee you we'll figure out a way to get it fixed and get it resolved. But again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for sharing your story with us. It's not like any other story I've ever heard in state government, but this is clearly government at its worst. And so with that, let me again just say thank you, ma'am, for sharing with us as well.
Thank you.